TV18 and you're watching CNBC TV18. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable. IIM Amritsar presents Vyakriti'22.
Indian Institute of Management Amritsar kicked off its annual IT and Analytics Conclave Vyakriti'22 with an engaging keynote speech by Mr. Pradeep Saini, who enunciated the importance of accountability in the field of AI.
When you're done doing something a day in and day out, you don't actually refer to the theory because we experience from a practical perspective. And I think all of us do that. We wake up, mobile. We book cab, mobile. We want to order food, which restaurant to go is on mobile. But what we don't know, what is channeling behind the scene, is all artificial intelligence. And which we decide. In a way, I would say today's world, as I said, it does not need any introduction from us, but especially to the audience like you. But what we know, AI has permeated into our lives. And mobile phone, which each one of carry, is an extension of our human body and to an extent mind. That's what the artificial intelligence, we don't feel it, but this is what it's doing. They control our behavior pattern. Therefore, it is essential for us to understand the implication of this, what it can lead, rightfully or wrongfully. I think while there are lots of positive signs of it, and I think I would say it's a blessing to the mankind. But again, it's like a double-edged sword. You can flip to any side, depending on your values, ethics. But as a country, we carry a good amount of value. And I'm sure this topic is very, very relevant for what we are going through as a country and what you will shape up this country in terms, not don't limit yourself to this country, but on the global footprint, because 30 to 40% of workforce of global IT is sitting right in this country. That's what the value of AI is. But again, I just heard a bold statement, great power comes with great accountability. So it is up to us, how do we want to use it? Now, while there are malicious use of AI, and despite all this in context, AI is going to grow. That's the future. You just heard about India numbers in terms of GDP. Let me just enlighten you with what Deloitte Artificial Intelligence report says. Anybody want to guess what the number is going to be? It's about $15 trillion by 2013 in terms of AI. Look at the opportunity size. And those who are part of this journey, I think you should be considering yourself blessed that you are in a country where we are the powerhouse of Indian services. We are the one who's going to lead it. The era is going to belong to us as long as we are able to use this power with great accountability. And I think that's what we should carry it forward in terms of mantra.
Panel discussion themed Innovating with Conscience, Designing and Deploying a Responsible AI, moderated by Dr. Swati Jain, focused on looking at AI and its implications from a bird's eye view. It also provided students with a holistic view of the potential, opportunities, and challenges in AI.
This is amazing. No sector is untouched by artificial intelligence, be it banking, financial services, insurance, healthcare, pharma, travel, transportation, logistics, or even education. So, and means any of the use cases, be it like predicting or recommending what we should do next, to predicting fraud in the transactions as was stated out, or even predicting patient outcomes. So potential is definitely enormous, but then I'll repeat the sentence, with great power comes great responsibility, and it is very, very important that as we use artificial intelligence, we mitigate the risks associated with AI, the economic, the financial, the environmental, and the societal risks that are there. It is estimated that the risks by human actions is 100 times more riskier than the natural risk. And therefore, given these risks are by human actions, these are in human control as well. And that's where the topic comes, innovating with conscience, a super topic. And if we innovate with conscience, it is not only that we'll be able to control the risks, we'll also be able to ensure that these risks do not arise. Because the whole existence, our whole existence is basis our conscience. And if we decide, we can do it.
That is the right intent, right? Which are the key words. The right intent through the life cycle of this space, be it designing, designing through developing, through deploying artificial intelligence. You need to have the right intent, right? But these two words are also very subjective. How do you define what is right? How do you define whether the intent was appropriate or not? But if there is a collective consciousness around keeping that dimension, wearing that hat for all those who are participating in the endeavor in this space, then that should be the right first step to take to carry the responsibility of what is being done. That is impacting somebody's life, right? That is impacting some decision that is impacting somebody, be it legal, fiduciary, or the societal impact. If all these dimensions are being, somebody who is developing it is being cognizant of, then it's a right first step towards taking the right direction in this area.
I'm not only passionate about artificial intelligence, but even more passionate about spiritual intelligence. And the topic of conscience comes with the spiritual intelligence. And in spiritual intelligence, everything boils down to I. The whole responsibility is for I, myself, and lies with me.
I mean, we should see that responsible AI is important for successful AI. And with success, it means that, it's not just the person who has developed the AI, but the consumers also can sort of identify with it. It is understanding their context, it is addressing the pain points, and it is ultimately translating into meaningful outcomes. Like, for example, any of you who are using mobile phones today will be having a multitude of apps that probably know you better than you know yourself. Do they need to know? Is it necessary for them to be aware of so much? Is it tied to a purpose? So starting with data collection, then where is the data stored? I mean, is it stored in a way that is reasonably secure, that any kind of a hacking incident is going to keep it secure, not going to compromise the data that is collected? That needs to be taken into account. Then we get to the stage of developing an insight or a model on top of it. And now this is where AI gets its avoidable fame of being a black box approach. Can it explain? Can it be interpreted? And when these two aspects are addressed, it starts laying the foundation for it being understood, adopted, successful, and in all of this it gets to that responsible kind of an outcome.
We speak about explainable AI. It's like, first, someone was saying that, can I explain it to myself? If I can explain it to myself, what it's doing, the input parameters, what are the impact on my output. So that's one piece of it. Now, once that piece is done, then there are other things like security we spoke about. Apart from security, whether it's reproducible. I mean, people are talking about bias. Bias is when you develop any model, bias is taken care. I mean, as a student, we should understand that bias, I mean, you do not develop a model on biased data. So bias, outliers, some basic things needs to be taken care at the very beginning itself. See, right now, why we are talking about explainable AI, it's all because of AutoML. You put all the data, run all the models, and an output comes up. But if we have to, I mean, 10 years back, 15 years back, computing power was not that great. And you have to decide that at which stage or what are the outcomes based on that. And the input parameters that we have, we used to build models that way. So, yeah, I mean, ethical part of it, legality, and all these things are needs to be taken into consideration while building an explainable AI. Those things are done, but as a student, we probably should go back a little bit and understand that whatever, I mean, it's like the conceptual framework. Whatever problem I want to solve, I need to know how all my input parameters impacts my output and accordingly build a model. It could be anything.
There are three kinds of bias. One is the data bias, one is algorithmic bias, one is human bias, which is interpretation bias. Data bias is something which nobody ingests into the system. That comes as it is, right? So the role that we are going to play is that how to identify that biasness in the data and how we can mitigate that. That is one part of it. The algorithmic bias is something like, why did you apply linear model, not a non-linear model? Or let's take, I have a preference for always logistic model or a linear regression model. I will not go ahead with neural network based models, right? Probably that may give a better picture. Probably that may capture more, some kind of non-linearity existing in the data that leads to better predictions. But I did not select that algorithm. Why? Because maybe I do not have a preference for that, right? So as a developer, as a modeler, there is a little bit of bias there also. Then comes the interpretation bias. So I'll just give one example of how do you identify the interpretation bias. Same income profile, same, let's take credit history. One person residing in region 1 versus region 2. Somebody is getting a credit approval, somebody is not getting a credit approval. But if you look at the profile of the person, it is exactly the same. There is no difference. The only difference is that probably the region or locality where the person is staying, right? Now this is something like an unconscious bias which got introduced to your model, which you have to capture. Now how do you capture this? Probably you need explainability tools, right? So one of the way to identify the biasness in the data or algorithms probably is explainability. Now there are different frameworks in explainability. So there is something called contrastive explanations. There is something called lookalike models. There is something called what if scenarios. So there are different kinds of frameworks which you can leverage to identify if such kind of biasness is happening in the prediction process or not, right? So the current state of responsible AI, or I would say explainable AI, is that to some extent it is addressing the concerns of the responsibility or responsible AI. How? It addresses the explainability part, accountability part, and the fairness part. When it comes to privacy and the safety, I think we have to go little further. So it will take some time to identify certain tools that can address the safety or privacy aspects of it. However, here with the help of explainability, what we are achieving is that accountability also to some extent we are achieving some kind of information processing, or it can be predictions or classifications. So when we are like task, I can break it into 3 or 4 categories: classification, recommendation, information retrieval or natural language processing, and probably robotic process automation. So these are the 4 domains of AI systems I can think of.
IIM Amritsar presents Vyakriti' 22.
My hobby is solving the problem with the technologies. My hobby is also solving the challenges day-to-day life and with the technologies. We have fight a lot, we have worked together a lot. So this innovation will bring us a close relation together, very close. There is one child in our street, he's called Sundar. One day we find that he has some kind of disabilities. It is a by birth hearing loss. So they have sold their own house in our street and they have treated a Sundar with a hearing aid implant for 1 year. Even though the entire family is not satisfied with the solution. So everything for our innovation is started from our home. But for our research and development, we have been supported under lots of primary stakeholders like ENT, audiologists and scientists across India. They are guided and mentoring us to develop our innovation. So what we are doing, we are avoiding implantation surgery and we are externally giving a transcranial magnetic stimulation. With that, we are providing a non-surgical solution for children. We are also working on the Alpha Pulse. Alpha Pulse is an innovative technology to treat a partially hearing loss patients to break the stigma in their life. the only solution around the world is hearing aid implant, but it is a high risk and high cost associated with the many restrictions. We have overcome all these challenges and invented a world first non-surgical hearing device. No more parents need to drill their children's skull for hearing.
This is the news you need to know now. News with real-time influence. From new space policies to the global energy crisis. From COVID-19 to India's stance at the WTO. Politics from Ukraine to Maharashtra. From key GST changes to Agnipat protests. From Elon Musk's Twitter bid to rising Indian unicorns. This is the next generation of news, with newsmakers who shape the world. Insights, opinions, influencers, seasoned journalists. This is not the same news you see everywhere, because the world is changing and the news is too. We make your news our business every second of every day. This is news on CNBC TV 18. The last hour. Anything can happen between the bells. But what happens during the last hour is what matters the most. The biggest market swings. A close-up look at what's driving them. And how the investors are reacting. Watch the most seasoned market mavens guide you through the most important hour of the trading day. NSE Closing Bell. At these times, only on CNBC TV 18 and CNBCTV18.com.
Powered by LIC. हर पल आपके साथ.
IIM Amritsar presents Vyakriti' 22.
Now, many things leads to how well you are integrated with the business, right? How well you are grounded and be able to empathize with how a business is thinking and executing stuffs. Data scientists, more often than not, are too busy making the models which are very accurate, which gives a lot of good results. But it's very important to be abreast with the context. And that's where I think it is going to be multidisciplinary from here on. It already is. And that is where, management will play a very strong role in order to make this field very successful. Now, one example from my past roles where the teams were tasked to build models to increase the response to certain offer, right? So simple response models. It was a very, big box retail company in US, Walmart actually number one store chain in the United States. And, the objective was to increase the response rate of the private level credit card, which are offered inside the store. Fantastic model built. The offer was really good, 0% interest for 6 months, and thereafter the best pricing in the industry. And everybody was very confident that the response rates will go up and that adoption of the model will go high. Now, after the product was launched, it was executed, it failed, right? It was, the response rate was probably half of the model was predicting. Now, nobody knew what's going on. So then the team was asked to go and observe what's happening in the store. What was happening in the store, that the card was not being offered at all at the point of sale because the cashier is worried about the long queue, right? So when somebody is going to check out, if you ask them, hey, sir, do you want this credit card? They didn't want to do that because then they will, the customer will get pissed off, right? They'll be irritated that, okay, I'm late and you're offering me something, right? So that was the reason why. So the offer itself was not made and hence the response was not high. Now, the corrective action was that let's offer a Coke bottle along with offering the credit card, right? So that the person who is being offered is also getting some more incentive that, hey sir, here's a 1 liter bottle of Coke if you take this, if you sign up for this credit card, right? So then the offer rate went up, and hence the responses also went up. Now there's a behavioral psychology to it, that it was not actually the person's incentive to take the bottle of Coke and hence apply for the credit card. It was actually the confidence of the cashier. It went up that I am here, I'm offering something, and in return I'm asking something from you, right? Now those kind of insights will come only when you are very closely integrated as to what's happening in the ground and with the business, and then it will get translated in your data into action. And your choosing of the data, like the data centricity, right, will come as to what is important and what is not. Because if you give a lot of unimportant stuffs to your model to learn, in the period of time it will waste its time learning a lot of things which it doesn't need to, right?
You will get a chance to go through an induction program when you join your companies. So make use of it to build your context, build your understanding of what is happening. Okay, because once you get that, there are largely two roles in an AI or a data analytics project. One of a translator, one who understands the business context, understands the business problem, and can translate that into a data problem. Once it is translated into a data problem, an analyst can take over or a statistician can take over and then easily find a solution. So these two roles are very fairly distinct, and you have a large role to play, at least in the translation part of it. In the context of a banking industry, it could be someone like RBI. In the context of capital markets, it could be SEBI. These are people who will say that, you know, this is what you can do. Or in the case of insurance industry, IRDAI kind of comes as a regulator. Like an example can be that, you know, data that is generated in India cannot be stored on a cloud platform that's outside India. So this is an external regulation. Then there is an ecosystem regulator. Like for example, Google in a way kind of plays an ecosystem regulator. Like for example, you want to build an app, deploy it on a mobile, start collecting data. You have to convince Google that the data you're capturing is essential for you to run your services or your whatever actions you're doing through the app. The third regulation is more self-regulation, because whatever comes as a legislation is sort of setting the minimum threshold in terms of what is morally acceptable. Law kind of gives you a bare minimum threshold that, you know, I should not be doing it, but you can do better than that. I mean, if you have, I mean, for a lot of AI initiatives to be responsible and successful, you'll have to run it through, you know, some kind of a committee which can play the devil's advocate, as you know, like question what if, question why, and then, you know, once that there is a certain degree of self-regulation and you're able to find answers to some of the more difficult questions, you're able to navigate through the regulation landscape.
I have little bit different opinion than auditing. Twitter may not give their, model for auditing. I mean, what are the kind of news that they are showing? There are control over there. So anyway, I mean, coming back to the original point, I mean, it's, I think a government organized body like an RBI for say whomsoever is responsible for the respective sector, they should be entrusted upon the regulatory piece of it. And yes, auditing is important probably for some of the cases, may not be for everything. My financial models can be audited. But then there are sometimes, say, people are using alternative data in order to build their fintech, 1,000 crores of worth of companies. Will they give you that IP? So it's a little bit tricky to even think of.
Yeah. Three things I would like to say. One is be curious. Don't shy away from getting into the code, because you will find 20 different people, they have explained the same code in a very simple manner. And third thing is be cloud agnostic. So follow cloud and start learning the cloud essentials, because that is going to be the norm in next couple of years.
Do something with responsibility, you are sure to be successful. And I will also add on to that responsible AI is sustainable AI. Because only if you do anything with responsibility will you sustain in the long run. And that, as a students, you also know that it is the hard work through the year and all, which will not only help you get great grades in the exams, but also be successful in life. right? So it is the whole attitude of sustainability which makes individual successful, which will also make AI successful.
Let's hear from Sunil Reddy Kundru about IIM Amritsar's future programs for students and budding managers.
I am delighted to have witnessed such an eloquent discourse on a topic that pushes us to think beyond the obvious. I am very grateful to the panelists for gracing us with their presence and orchestrating very insightful conversations today. I would also like to thank our students in the Industry Interaction Cell and the coordinators of the Analytics and Business Computing Club for successfully conducting this event. We at Indian Institute of Management, Amritsar, believe in imparting holistic education. Our students take lead in organizing multiple events like Vyakriti' that host industry leaders and enable our students to witness first-hand accounts of what is happening in the outside world. IIM Amritsar also engages with the industry through a multitude of long and short duration executive education programs. We are currently working with both public sector and private sector firms to train their managers in various disciplines of management such as strategic planning, digital transformation, business analytics, human resource management, supply chain resilience, etc. Under the visionary leadership of Professor Nagarajan Ramamurthy, Director of IIM Amritsar, the institute has grown rapidly in the last few years. While our flagship MBA program has expanded considerably, we have also launched MBA degree programs in business analytics and human resource management. We have also started our executive MBA program. The EMBA program is currently being expanded into offline mode with a plan to conduct classes in New Delhi. In addition, we are also engaging with other institutes of national importance to start joint programs. Next year, we are starting a joint integrated MBA program with IIT Ropar and NIT Jalandhar. IIM Amritsar is committed to building strong relationships with the higher education ecosystem in the region. Driven by our motto of igniting possibilities, we continue to strive to provide world-class education to our students.
IIM Amritsar presents Vyakriti' 2022.